Leah Lindeman, author of the Canadian Reminiscence series. I know I've been on break for a little while and maybe haven't seen any videos pop up on your feed recently. That's because I've been taking a little bit of a break in August. I think I just felt really burnt out with a bunch of the readathons that I did in June and July, and not only that, but I just needed to kind of slow down overall in my life. So not only was I doing a break from YouTube, but also just the rest of my social media. And plus, at the end of this month, we did a week-long camping trip with the 6 kids. So it was nice to just unplug and do beach days. We took them to a zoo, aqua park. It was a lot of fun. So it was difficult to kind of put content together while I was doing that. And I wasn't going to stress myself trying to get content ahead of time and uploaded and scheduled for while I was gone. So that's why I hadn't been around, but I'm back now, and I did have a good month of reading, although I did not read as much as I usually do, which I think was a good thing. I just needed to slow down and enjoy my life a little bit more. I think a lot of us actually, from what I can tell, have been going through a few reading slumps this summer. So mine was this past month. Not so much a reading slump, but just slowing down on the reading and not reading as much, which was really good for me. So I do have a few announcements before I go into my book reviews for this month and then my TBR for next month. So I got some exciting book mail. As you may have remembered in my mid-year freakout tag, I mentioned 3 books, maybe a few more, but specifically 3 books that I really need to read before the end of this year. And I ordered them from Amazon and they finally came in, so I'm so excited. I've got number 1, Songbirds and Stray Dogs by Megan Lukas. She was actually Paper Cuts. She was the first guest on Paper Cuts, which is a podcast done by my friends Brad Proctor and The World According to Jay, which I was on the show as well. I'll link that down below so you can check that out. It was so much fun hanging out with them and talking about writing and reading and being a booktuber. But yeah, I said that I would pick up her book because it sounded really interesting and deep, and I'm excited to read this. And then also I got Betty came in, which I heard about this from a few of my booktuber friends as well, specifically Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. So I'm excited to read this. Jay, I'm still up for our buddy read for this in November, so you better get a copy. And then, oh, I'm so excited for this. This seems really up my alley. The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and this also was a recommendation from Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. I'm so excited, but I mean, look how thick this is. So I think I'm keeping this for a December read. I need some magic this Christmas or December, so this is going to be it. But I am so excited those came in. And now let's get to the reads that I read this month. So my first read was Big Lonely Doug by Harley Rustad. I think I'm saying that okay. And that I gave a... I'm going between a 3.5 and a 4-star review. I don't know if I still fully committed to one or the other, and I'll tell you why. The book is about Canada's 2nd largest fir tree on the west coast in BC. I particularly found a lot of it interesting. There were some things, I guess the way it was written was not written in a way that anybody could just read it and find it interesting, and that's where my problem is with it. It talks about how the tree was discovered, why the person who was in charge why the person in the logging company who was in charge of marking certain trees for either being logged or to keep, why he decided to keep it. It talks about the history of the logging industry in BC. It also talks about the history of the activism in BC and how different activist groups have been working on protecting the old growth forest. But at the same time, although there is perhaps a lot of information that most people might not find interesting, there were some great nuggets in the book that really just kind of reignited my fascination with science and my love for it. So I'm going to share a few of these with you. One thing that really sparked my fascination was, I believe I've heard of this before, read about it before, but there's certain fungi that grow on the roots of the tree systems in the old growth forest, so that when a tree is diseased, that fungi is almost like the internet in between all the trees. And so it recognizes that there's this disease in the tree, and it cuts off from that tree, from the rest of the root system, so that none of the other trees, it's like a mechanism to fight that disease for the trees. So none of the other trees will get the disease or will be much more resistant to getting that disease. So I thought that was really fascinating. Also, that old growth forest and the ecosystem that they have is much more rich than a second growth forest. And then the author, put down those reasons why. And then another thing that I found interesting was he kind of relayed the symbiosis between the salmon and the bears and the trees, and how the bears will take the salmon a kilometer away from the shore and drop the remains of the salmon in the tree. And there's this specific protein in the salmon, I believe, that they actually find in the tree rings when they cut the trees. So I just found a lot of the scientific connections very interesting, and just kind of filled me with warmth that our world was designed in such a beautiful way for it to all work and connect with each other. So it made me smile every time I read something to that kind of information. But as I said, it is not a book for everyone. I think the author could have done a better job of putting together the story in a way that would make it more engaging for just anybody to pick up the book. But then again, when you're an author, you are writing to a certain demographic, and I don't think this book is good for every demographic. We read this for my book club, my local book club, and it totally bombed. Most of them didn't even finish it. So there you have it. If someone is interested in this topic, then it's a good book. It's got lots of great information, but for most people who are not even interested in this topic in the first place and then pick it up to read it, I don't think they're going to finish it. That was the main consensus in my local book club. Then I also read Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva, and this was a buddy read with Linda from Linda's World of Books, which I really enjoyed doing. This I was really conflicted about, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, I'm doing a review on this. But I'm going to say the things that I loved. I think I'm giving this a 4 stars, and there's something that kind of bumps that rating up, and I'll tell you what it is. I really enjoyed that this story. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about the story. So we find Mr. Dickens and his family are gearing up for their big Christmas celebration, but his publishers come to him and say that his latest work, Mr. Chuzzlewit, I think, is bombing at the bookstores. No one is picking up his copies now. They're going to have to sell them at a discount, and if he doesn't give a Christmas novel, then he is doomed. He is going to reap financial failure, and he won't be able to provide for his family. So there starts the whirlwind of him trying to rein in his wife's spending for Christmas, but she's not having any of it. And then his wife and his kids leave him because he's becoming a Scrooge in himself. He does not want to write his Christmas novel, but then inspiration enters his life and sparks that joy of writing within him again, and he actually does write the Christmas Carol that most of us, I believe, all know and perhaps many of us love. So what I really did enjoy about this book was that it kind of gave a backstory to how he would have come up, or maybe why he would have come up with the Christmas Carol book. And what was really interesting was that in this novel, he was writing a Christmas Carol while he was embodying the character of Scrooge, and you were seeing all these other characters in the Christmas Carol embodied by other people in his life. So it was kind of like a mirror of the original Christmas Carol. I did enjoy that. And I also enjoyed the ending. I thought it was very heartwarming. It wasn't a real like, oh, I couldn't believe it kind of revelation. I did see it coming, but it just gave you the good feels and good Christmas cheer. So that is what I did enjoy about it. There were a few things that I found frustrating up until maybe the middle of the book, maybe even a little bit past the middle of the book. So I mentioned that, they don't have money and they're going to go broke if he doesn't deliver his Christmas novel. So he doesn't sit down. Well, let me tell you why. Okay, trying to figure out how the best way to tell you. He doesn't sit down with his wife, let's say on the couch or whatever, and say, this is the issue. He just kind of says, we can't buy any more stuff. We're cutting our Christmas spending. Let's keep it simple. But he doesn't give his wife a reason why. Like, he does, but it's not communicated very well. And having been married for 11 years, and the reason why I have a good marriage with my husband is that we take the time. This is going to give you a little bit of marital advice. Anybody who's married or getting married, listen to this, okay? And all the 11 years that I've been married, my husband and I, we strive every day to have couch time of at least 10 to 15 minutes, even with all the kids that we have, whether it's after they go to bed or they just play quietly while we just have that time to talk. And we talk about what's happening in our day-to-day lives. We just connect spirit to spirit, share what's on our hearts, and keep those communication lines open, okay? And that saves us a lot of pain, which it would have saved him a lot of pain if he had just done that, but he didn't do it. And he was just trying to tamp down the symptoms, but not really curing the issue. And that was my frustration with it, which I realized that it's probably an issue that a lot of people have. So if you have this issue with your spouse, keep the communication open and express exactly what you want to say. And then his wife, she's not really listening either. She's just kind of like, oh, we need to have Christmas, but he's trying to tell her. I just found both of them kind of sucked at communication. And then she goes off to Scotland and she takes all the kids and basically, oh yes, that's right, because he thinks that he's going to find his muse somewhere. He needs to recapture his muse. And before he met his wife, he used to be in love with this other woman, and then she jilted him for another guy. So he actually meets up with this other woman from his past, and when he does, he quickly realizes that she's this gossiper and very fluff, no substance to her. And then he realizes what a terrible mistake he's done. And then that's why I was frustrated with his wife. And then his wife finds out that he's seen his past lover, and she's like, how dare you go and do this behind my back? But he's trying to explain to her that nothing happened. Like, sure, he did not go with the right intentions, but he quickly realized his very stupid mistake. And I just, from past experiences, not that my husband has ever gone to a past lover, but there obviously was a miscommunication and he was trying to explain the situation, and I think just knowing, anyways, she should have just listened to him, let him explain, and not kind of gotten all emotional about it. But I know she's a woman and she just had a baby, so she's also super emotional. That makes you super emotional. Okay, I'm gonna be a little bit lighter on her, but anyways, that's why I was frustrated with her. So they go off. Another thing I was super frustrated with is that, okay, they leave, right? And then he finds his muse. He finds his muse in the beautiful Eleanor Lovejoy, and he starts stalking her around London. And she really does seem to be a nice lady, but then the whole time he's talking about how he loves his wife and he loves his kids, but then he's running around London trying to find her, and then at one point he's almost going to kiss her. And I'm thinking, your words and your actions do not match up at all. So what is wrong with you? I was just so frustrated with this guy. So yeah, the characters were so frustrating. Once he kind of got over his lovesick puppy, please be with me, I want to be with you all the time, you're my muse type of thing, it was still present a little bit at the end, but it really toned down after a little bit. And then, as I said, there's a nice little surprise at the end. But so this kind of reminded me of Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, which I read earlier in the year, and I had a hard time with that one because the ending was great, but the rest of it was very frustrating and long. So I bumped this up because it was frustrating, the ending was great, but at least it wasn't long. See, this compared to like a 700-page book was not that bad. So 3.5, 4 stars, somewhere around there. Okay. And then my last read was True Crime by Samantha Kolsnick. And this one I'm giving a 4.5 stars. There is so much to say about this book. It was horrifying. It was deep. It was enigmatic. It was heartbreaking. It starts off with this girl who lives with her brother and her mother, and it is very obvious that at the beginning, her whole life she's been abused physically, sexually. She's undergone terrible things. And her mom even kidnapped this girl and has her prisoner in the basement, and she has conversations with her through the grate in her room. And she's stuck in this real hell-like situation. And then one day, circumstances, she snaps. And she kills her mother. And they burn the house. Yep. With the girl trapped inside. And they go along, they take the car, and they drive down country roads on a little bit of a killing spree. Until she's taken in because of certain circumstances, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin the story. And then comes this point in her life where she's shifted from a terrible home to a good home. And how does that change her life, or does it? This book was very heavy. Each character was so well written and so colorful. I mean, even the characters that only appeared once for, a chapter or two, maybe 3 chapters in the whole story, they jumped off the page. And that's a very special skill. The only one who I could say I wanted more from was the brother, which he's around, I think around up until half the book. And he just kind of seemed a little two-dimensional compared to everyone else. And I know he's a quiet individual, but I just felt like I needed a little bit more from him. And so the characters were really well written. And let me put a disclaimer out. This book is not for everyone, so obviously I've given you a little bit of a synopsis of what this book is about, and this could trigger perhaps a lot of people. And then what I also really enjoyed about this book was it posed a lot of questions about how people are designed, and are you born a certain way? Is it nurture versus nature? And the ending, I actually thought was pretty satisfying, and it went very well with who she is as a sociopath. So I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to spoil the ending, but it really did fit her situation and who she was, and the internal dialogue that you see throughout the entire book. All meshed together very well. There was a great cohesiveness throughout the book. So those are the 3 books I read this past month. 3 is not that many, but was the right amount for me. And I'm excited for this month because this month I have a readathon. It is not a readathon like the June one or the July one. This is a much more relaxed readathon, and I think it's because I'm not competing for points. If there were points, I think I'd try to compete more. So maybe this is a good thing that there's no points, because boy, is my September so incredibly busy just in my personal life that I don't think I could do a readathon with points. I think I would maybe burn out. So this is good. And I just had to do this readathon because it's Nichi at Dark Between Pages. She is putting this readathon on with Linda from Linda's World of Books, and those 2 ladies are my first entry into booktubing in this whole beautiful new world with you all. So I am going to do it with them, support them, have fun with them. And this readathon is called the Step Right Up Readathon, and it's all about superhero prompts. So I'm not exactly reading superhero books. I'm making the books that I was kind of planning to read for September fit the prompts. So I'm going to tell you the prompts and tell you the books that I'm going to be reading for the prompts. First prompt is, before I get into that, I just want to say, the last book wrap-up TBR that I had, I said that I was reading Rewriting Adam by Connie Mae Inglis, who she is the first author who has asked me to review her book for her. I have not forgotten you, Connie. I am still going to be reviewing your book. I am almost done your book. I just couldn't fit it in by the end of August. So your book is the first book that will be getting a special review all by itself video. So I'm going to finish it this week, and then I'll be putting up its video in about 2 weeks. It's a standalone review, which will be the first standalone review on my channel. So I'm excited for that, and I am enjoying the reading so far. Now let's go to my TBR. So with the Step Right Up Readathon, I have as the first book, The Last Stand. This also was in my August TBR. Well, this did not make it into August. I mean, look at this, guys. But I am excited to read this nonetheless, because after Connie's book, Rewriting Adam, I'm going to be tackling this first. Just get it done. Get her done, and then I can go on to my other ones. That's the plan. So this book is fulfilling the prompt Super Strength, a book that is physically or mentally heavy. Okay, it may not be heavy, but look at all those pages. That is heavy for a book reviewer's digestion. Okay, I know that was a really weird I can't even think of the word now. And seriously, I write. I'm a writer. I should know this. Anyways, this is heavy. So this is my super strength book. And then I have, I'm going to be reading the Team Read Super Secret book, which I think is more along the lines of a comic, or yeah, it's a comic book. So I'm excited for that because I don't really read comics or graphic novels, but I am interested to see how my reading experience will be with that one. So I will let you know. And then I have Eve in Exile by Rebecca Merkel and the Restoration of Femininity. So basically, this fulfills the prompt of Shapeshifting, a book that changes you or gives you a different outlook on a certain way of thinking. So this book, Even Exile, basically sets aside all stereotypes of mid-century housewives, of China doll femininity, of Victorian fainting, of women not allowed to think for themselves or talk to the men about anything interesting or important. So I think it covers more of the history of femininity. And I'm reading this specifically because in the book that I am now writing, which is set during World War II, that is a huge time of the rise in feminism. So this book was suggested by my sister-in-law, who said it would be a good read. And then I have Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. Fredrik Backman, this supposedly is about a bank robbery gone wrong, and it kind of details the power of friendship and forgiveness. You have this bank robber who has all these hostages, and it's about their interactions throughout the bank robbery gone wrong. So this sounds very interesting. This is going to be for the the prompt Immortality, which is basically a book that people are talking about. I think a book that people are talking about, a book that will never die. So I don't know how many people are talking about this, but my book club is talking about this, and they're anxious to read it, eager to read it. So they're people, right? They're talking about it, right? So I think that fulfills the prompt, hopefully. And then I also have Bad Luck Bride by Jana McGregor. It is, I believe, a romance set during the Victorian times or Regency times, somewhere those. It fulfills the prompt of teleportation, taking you to a new world. And I'm reading this actually in conjunction with Andrea Janelle Reads, who's on Instagram. She's a booktuber there. Sorry, not a booktuber, a bookstagrammer. And they're doing the whole, it's the Caversham Heiresses series. This is book 1 in the series. And they're starting it this month. And so I thought it'd be fun. It's been a while since I've read, well, I did read Defiant Surrender, which was technically just like a historical romance, but I don't really read them very often, so I thought, oh, hey, it'd be fun to join in on that read and kind of dip my toes a little bit into the romance category. We'll see if I enjoy it as much as I enjoy all my other genres. And that is it. That is my TBR for September, which I'm really excited about. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, ding the bell down below, and subscribe. If you are looking to read some historical fiction, if you like that genre, my books are listed down below. They're Amazon pages. I've got Redeemed from the Ashes. It's a historical fiction drama, along with a sequel. And then Wisps of Gold is a historical fiction murder mystery, and it has a sequel as well. And you can check that out if that sounds interesting to you. And I just thank you for stopping by and watching and supporting me in my channel. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Or you seeing me next week? You can tell I'm out of practice with this. 2 weeks and I already don't know what to say. So I'll see you then. Take care.